Welcome to Salesology, conversations with sales leaders, the art of faster, easier, more profitable sales. When you're ready to transform your sales for today's transforming market, we've got you covered with your host, the queen of cold calling and founder of Salesology, award-winning author, speaker, sales trainer, and coach, Wendy Weiss.
Hi, welcome to Salesology, conversations with sales leaders, the art of faster, easier, more profitable sales. And I'm your host, Wendy Weiss. I am the founder of Salesology and the Salesology Prospecting Method. I'm also known as the queen of cold calling. And today we have a very special guest. I want to welcome Kim Speed, who is the founder and Chief Marketing Officer for Purple Moon Creative Brand and Marketing Boutique. And Kim is a brand visibility expert. She is a business mentor, a speaker. She is the recipient of the most influential businesswoman in brand development. And she's an Amazon bestselling author. The book is Branding on a Shoestring. And I'm going to ask her about that. And she shares how to recreate your small business identity and increase sales in 83 days or less, which sounds like a really good thing to be doing. Kim spent many years in the corporate world. She worked in advertising as a creative director for some of the biggest global brands, including Coca-Cola, TD Bank, Ford, and Coors. And after leaving the world of advertising, Kim started her own business, Purple Moon Creative Brand and Marketing Boutique, where she helps budding and building entrepreneurs courageously step into their own spotlight to create brands that stand out and attract clients. So welcome, Kim.
Thank you so much, Wendy. It's great to be here with you today.
Yeah, so I have to begin where I like to begin, which is at the beginning. What is the Kim Speed story? Share the backstory with us.
Okay, well, let me tell you, 13 years ago, I was an employee. I worked in the world of advertising. As you mentioned, I was a creative director working on some of the biggest brands on the globe, and having just a great time. But the recession hit and we lost a big, huge client. And with that, there had to be layoffs. And so I found myself without a job. And Wendy, I was never, ever thinking I was going to be an entrepreneur. I always just thought, I didn't even know what the word entrepreneur meant. It wasn't something in my vocabulary. I was taught you go to school, you graduate, you get a job, you work for somebody for the rest of your life. And that suited me fine until I got to be at home with my kids for a while I was looking for another job. And I had just this revelation of how much time I was actually spending away from my family and missing so much. When I was at home looking for another job, I was actually, being able to take them to school, take them to activities, be there for them after school, have their friends over, really feel like, I felt like I was getting introduced to my kids. And I said, I can't lose this and I need to continue this. I just don't know how. So without a real plan, Wendy, I just jumped right in and said, okay, I'm not going back to the corporate world. I have to figure it out. What can I do? And I just started to offer my services out and built a business with just throwing spaghetti at the wall. And let me tell you, at first it was not really pretty. Well, actually, it was okay because I had a network of people who needed my services. So I was able to make money, but I didn't have a plan to continue it on. And I didn't, have a marketing plan. I didn't have a sales plan, no new business plan. So my plan was you go out, you get a job, a project, you do that, and then you finish it, you get paid, and you go out and get another one. And as you can imagine, I'm sure that's not a great plan. It was like a roller coaster. So I actually had to make a decision. Am I going to do this? Because I still needed to make money and I still had bills to pay. Was I going to continue on this path and work for myself, which I absolutely adored because I endured being with my family more and having choices and having the control over things. I just needed to control it better. And so it took a lot of mentoring and coaching. And I had to learn a lot. I came from the world of marketing and thought that I knew so much, but I really had a lot to learn about running a business. So yeah, that's my story. If I hadn't have gone and reached out to people, I would have been back at a job. Luckily, I got help and I was able to build a business, and here I am today.
Yes, I share a similar story in that when I started my business, I thought I knew a lot about sales, but I didn't know anything about running a business.
Exactly.
And what do they say? You don't know what you don't know. And so getting help is really vital.
Yeah.
So
I do think that if we knew, we wouldn't do it. So maybe it's better we didn't know.
you may have a point there. So I want to begin by defining some terms because I was reading on your blog that there is a difference between the word brand and the word branding. So what's the difference?
I'm so glad you asked that because people confuse this all the time. So let's start with your brand. The brand is who you are. It's what people think about you. It's how they would describe you if they were telling a friend or a colleague about you when you weren't there. In essence, your brand is the perception people have. It's your reputation. And if you take the word brand out of a sentence and put the word reputation in, you'll see how important a brand actually is. A brand is everything that people think about you. And what you want to do is make sure that you can't actually get in somebody's mind and say, I want, think this way. We know that we can't do that exactly, but what we can do is help guide them to understand who we are. So that's what a brand is. And it's so important. And it is the foundation of your business. It's your voice, your personality. Your branding is everything that you use to communicate what the brand is. So that starts with, the visual identity, your logo, your colors and your fonts. It's the packaging, the signage. It's everything that you use to send out the message of who you are to your audience.
Okay. So when you use the word brand, what I think I heard you say is whether you're Coca-Cola or a solopreneur, the brand is your reputation. So it's the reputation of Coca-Cola or it's the reputation of you as a solopreneur. Did I get that right?
That's right. That's exactly right. And we all, as entrepreneurs or small businesses, as soon as we put that shingle out, we are creating a brand. A brand starts right away. It's telling people that we have a product or service to offer, and this is who we are. This is how we're going to be different. And how we build that is how people are going to help become aware of us and see us, hear us, and remember us.
So one of the questions that I had planned to ask you today was that a lot of small businesses, when you think of brand and branding, lots of times you think about Coca-Cola, the larger companies. But what I think I'm hearing you say is that even if you're a small business owner, you may think that the brand, I don't need a brand. I don't need to worry about branding because that's for Coca-Cola. But you either have a brand that you have chosen or you have a brand that you haven't chosen. Did I get that right?
Exactly. That is so right. You are bang on there because if you have a choice when you create a business, you can either decide to develop your brand properly and create a strategy and actually nurture it, or you can just say, I'm going to leave that for now. And what happens there is that you actually let your competition brand you for what they want because they get the choice. And usually that it doesn't end up in your favor.
Yeah, letting your competition brand you sounds like a really bad idea.
Yeah.
Um, so let's talk some more about branding for those small business owners. You wrote a book, Branding on a Shoestring, because a lot of small business owners don't have the budget to spend big bucks on
Yeah.
a brand new website and all sorts of collateral material and hire all these people to do things. So how do you do that on a budget? What are the top things that someone needs to think about?
Well, and this is great because the whole shoestring part of it is it's not so much that you have to have a big budget. You have to just be mindful of it, and you have to be aware of it from the beginning. As we said, if you don't, it can go awry pretty quickly, and you are trying to make sure that people have a perception of you. So you're trying to give your company, your organization, meaning to a specific audience. So, what is your product and what is your service, and the problem that it solves is the business. So how do you get that across to somebody with an emotion, with a perception? You want people to feel something. You want to attract a certain group of people that are going to benefit from this product or service. So some of the things that I actually have people do are exercises that they don't take money. They just take mindfulness, and they need to be done. Sometimes it's not the most fun thing to do. It's because you're not getting those pretty pictures. Like everybody wants to start with the branding. I want a logo. I want the website. I want the pictures, because you see something and that's the sexy part. But you can't get to the sexy part if you haven't done the mindful part. So the mindful part really isn't costly.
Okay, so can you give us some examples of what that mindful part might be?
So it starts with, how do you think about, what are some of the words that you would love people to describe you as? I always like to say, let's write down all of the adjectives that you would love to be described as. If somebody were out there talking about you, let's write down those things. And, I just go to town and let's write down everything you think of. And then, if you're doing this with a team, get everybody involved in this. And it's so helpful to bring everybody together and think about, everybody starts off with, honesty and integrity and trust. And I'd say, yes, of course, we want those. But what are some of the more interesting things? Like, are you a funny brand? Are you a luxurious brand? Where do you fit in amongst your competition? Are you high end, or are you the more value driven brand? I want you to think of all of those things and start to, create a picture for everybody in the company of where you fit in the landscape of the market, and what kind of personality that you're going to develop and how people are going to think of you.
So where does the prospect fit into this? Because a little bit earlier, you had said part of the process was looking at the market, the prospects, whatever your offering is. So, and now you're talking about who are you, who is the company.
Mhm.
So is there
So
another
you
step
need,
where you look
oh,
at
yes, there is. That's just one step. So I call that perception analysis. The another large part of it is actually knowing your audience and figuring out who it is that needs your product, who has a problem that you solve. And I have to say, everybody that you sell to has a problem. If they don't have a problem, then they're not looking for a product or a service from you or from anybody. So everybody, even if it's to provide more joy in their life, it could be a positive looking issue that they have, but they're looking to solve something. So you have to figure out who are those people and what are they trying to solve, and how do I provide that solution to them. So that's a whole area that I go into. And then it's the difference between the problem solution, the audience, and then who is the avatar. That gets into a whole other description. And those are two different things too, because sometimes people lump those into the same thing as well.
exactly?
Yeah.
Yes. So when you're going through this branding exercise with a solopreneur, this is something that I'm curious about because I was reading on your website, and maybe I misunderstood this, but there was content about you are the brand. If you're a solopreneur, you're the business owner, you are the brand. What if you are a business owner and you're thinking at some point in the future, you want to sell the business for whatever reason? How does that shift? Does it, do you need to that rebrand, or how does that work?
So I love to describe it as there is a company brand, but within that there is personal brands that make the brand human. When you get larger and larger, like a Coca-Cola, they have an audience that they know that they're going after. So they will represent that audience in their brand. So that's a bigger thing. They've had more time, they've had more money that they can build that presence in people's minds. But for small businesses, and I want you to realize that you have an advantage. You have an advantage over a larger company because people can get to know the individuals in the business, and those are the personal brands, and they actually are what people are looking to do business with. So when you allow people in your company to, you're going to actually hire people that align with your values and your way of thinking, and train them to help understand what the personality, what the voice is, and so that they can, make it a brand experience that the audience continues to have through every area of the business. But you as a person can still have a personality, especially as the owner, that why did you start this company? Give people a reason to connect with you. That is where you're going to win over a large company. So as it grows, yes, there's going to be more people and it will change a little bit. But when you're a smaller solopreneur, take advantage of it. This is where people are wanting to connect with you. They want to know about you. They want to have what I call not B2B or B2C. They want H2H, and that's human to human connection.
I love that. Thank you for that, Kim Speed. I love that. And yeah, so I have so many more questions for you. We're going to pause for a moment for a word from our sponsor. When we come back, I want to ask you about some of the mistakes that small business owners make when they're trying to establish their brand or they are branding their company. I want to ask you for some success stories, some before and after, and how doing it right can make such a huge difference. And but now we have a word from our sponsor, Salesology 3X Appointments. You know how frustrating and stressful it is when you leave every sales meeting wondering if your sales team knows how to sell because they're not selling and all you ever hear from them are excuses. They blame your marketing, they say you need to do more social media, and they say you need a new website. You know something's wrong, you don't quite know what it is, and you're even starting to wonder if it's you. You don't have a lot of options. You could just fire them all and start over. That would be expensive. And you're really sick of waking up in the middle of the night wondering how to fix this. Well, imagine instead that you have an easy-to-use, replicable system that ensures your team can easily schedule qualified appointments. And imagine that your team is excited and motivated. No more excuses. And you feel good. Salesology 3X appointments can make that happen. If you're a business owner or a sales manager with an underperforming sales team, let's talk. Click on the link to my calendar in the show notes, schedule a time, and I look forward to meeting you. And we are back with my special guest, Kim Speed, who is the founder and chief marketing officer for Purple Moon Creative Brand and Marketing Boutique. And we are talking all things brand and branding. So welcome back, Kim.
Thank you, Wendy.
Yeah. So I have to ask you, what are some of the mistakes that small business owners make? They, start a business. I have to brand. I have to brand myself. I have to brand the business. What are some of the mistakes, some of the pitfalls, things that people should watch out for, and what should they do instead?
One of the things that first off is that they don't think about brand at all. And they go in and they start to just develop branding. And then they usually are all over the map and they're not focused on who they are or who their audience is. So I would say, first and foremost, understand what you develop or what you deliver, what products or service that you have, and how you are different than your competition. Where do you fit into the landscape? And let me explain, the whole perception thing. Going out there and having people understand and building awareness of your company is so important. And it takes time. But if you don't have a clear idea of what your audience should know about you, then it's very hard to communicate it. So I had a client, her name is Karen, and she came to me and she'd been in business for a long time, but her business all came from a referral source, basically one, and they went out of business. So she is an interior designer. And so she was getting business leads from a JV partnership that she had. And, she didn't have to worry about, doing sales and new business. And then all of a sudden they went out of business and she was struggling to get clients. And she was attracting people of all sorts that were not the right kinds of projects because people didn't understand what she was. So when we worked together and we started to, really dig into who she was, she explained, so many people come to her and they want her to do these small projects and she wanted these bigger projects. And all of a sudden it dawned on me that there's a difference between an interior decorator and an interior designer. But she wasn't letting people know that. She's an interior designer. She is able to do architectural drawings. She understands building and construction codes, and she can work with contractors who, actually build things rather than a decorator who is someone that comes in and actually takes an existing space and then knows how to set it up so that it functions properly and colors and such. But she was different. She wanted those projects where she was actually, building and creating and adding on. So when I looked at her branding, it completely said decorator. All of the looks she had, it was very very, it almost looked like a retail store. So we completely revamped her messaging and her look. And, we gave her more of I would say, an architectural feel. And it completely turned her business around in the fact that she was attracting the right people, the right types of projects. So now she was getting people that understood what she did because she had the right message. She was continuing to go out there and build on that message so people understood what a designer was and what her capabilities were, and were coming to her with the right projects.
Well, that's exciting. How long did that whole process with you take from the realization to the finalization of the execution? How long a process was that?
We worked together for 3 months to go from brand development and strategy, and then visual identity design and messaging. And then she went out, and then even while we were working, she was starting to already use this new messaging. So she was starting to draw in people while we were working on the project. So she was getting leads fairly quickly.
Very impressive. I love that.
Yeah.
So I know, Kim, you have a gift for our listeners.
I do.
So please share.
So yes, I'm so excited. I have a new assessment for business owners. So it is Get Your Brand Score. And it is an assessment where you can go in and find out where you're doing really well on your brand and where your gaps are, and give you some idea of where you should be looking to spend some more time, where you're doing really well and should do some more of that. And it's available at www.getyourbrandscore.com. So I would love for people to be able to go through that and find out where they are with their own brands.
Well, I know for a fact I'm going to do that as soon as we finish our interview here today. And for all of our listeners, we're posting that in the show notes. So finish listening to our interview and then go to the show notes and click on the link so you can find out what your brand score is. And and also I'm wondering where people can get your book.
So if you go, I have another link that I will also provide you when
we will put it in the show notes.
Yes.
Promise.
Yes, it's brandingonashoestringbook.com.
Okay, well, and we will put that in the show notes as well. So if you want to learn more from Kim about branding on a shoestring, we'll put that link in the show notes. After you finish listening to this podcast and you click on the link to get your brand score, then you can click on the link to get the book. It'll be very easy.
Yes.
And okay, wonderful. And last question, where can people find you?
Well, I am on LinkedIn as Kim Speed. I have my website where you can go and find out more about me at purplemooncreative.com. And I'm also on Instagram as Brand Visibility Expert. And I also have a Facebook group, Employee Entrepreneur Society.
Okay, and we'll post all of that in the show notes. So after you finish listening to the podcast, click on all of the links. And so I want to thank you all, our audience today. You've been listening to Salesology, Conversations with Sales Leaders. And our special guest today is Kim Speed. She is the founder and chief marketing officer for Purple Moon Creative Brand and Marketing Boutique. And if you found value in today's interview, think about one business owner or one sales professional, one solopreneur that you know that you think might find value in listening to today's episode, and please share the link with them. And as always, visualize yourself surrounded by cash, really large bills. Till we meet again.
You've been listening to Salesology, Conversations with Sales Leaders, the art of faster, easier, more profitable sales. Be sure to follow so that you don't miss a single episode. And while you're at it, please leave a rating and review, and be sure to share it with your friends. Tune in every week for more exciting insights and wisdom on transforming sales. And until next time, visualize yourself surrounded by cash, very large bills.